Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing about video games and violence, what it means to critique video games, and also some other news sprinkled in between there. But before we get situated and started, I have a guest. He has been on the podcast many times, and he's back again. Introduce yourself, my good friend.
Hi, it's me, SpongeBrain. Recognize me? I sound a little bit weird now.
We are recording this at 4 a.m. because that's the life of a podcaster now, I guess.
You say that Gumshoe doesn't put in the work. He puts in the work, guys.
But hey, who cares? Anyway, I guess I care. Oops. All right, so let's get right down to business. Our first topic today is going to be video games and violence. This is a thing that has resurgence since the 90s, and it's a bit worrying. I mean, oh god. Do you want to explain this mess? What's going on?
Okay, so where to start? Okay, so unfortunately, when you live in America, there's a thing that happens from time to time is when like an individual just wants to shoot up a school, and that happened again on Valentine's Day at Stone Majory Douglas High School in Florida. And now it's resparked the debate over gun control, and then they were like, well, what about games? He played a lot of video games. And we're going to talk about the connection between gun violence and video games, or violence in general. But so,
and that just and this is nothing new.
No,
and
not.
that's the sad thing is that we actually already had this conversation in the 90s, which by then we didn't have things like the ESRB, so it kind of makes sense that this because that it kind of makes sense that we'd have that conversation. But now it now has a resurgence, and even when a president says, "Oh yeah, well, I think we need some kind of rating system," and I'm like, we already have one.
Yeah. So, where do you want to take this conversation first? I think we're gonna both agree that it's very clear that when you play video games, video games does not cause you to go and shoot up schools. We could agree on that. I am pretty sure
that there's no direct correlation. Between.
Actually, I was listening to the Waypoint Radio podcast. Patrick Klepek, he did an interview with a scientist. Actually, it's kind of sad that like this scientist had actually done some research at the last school shooting that happened, major school shooting, which was Newtown.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah. So, and he had his conclusion then was more, you could believe that video games, cause violence, but like he came out with a book recently, it's called The War Against Mortal Kombat is Wrong, or something like that. It's very lengthy, but I highly recommend this interview. It's like on the Waypoint podcast. Patrick Klepek did an interview, but the scientist said, well, we see actually mainly a negative correlation between school shooters and video games, because mainly for school shooters, they've been isolated from society, and society, a lot of kids these days play video games. So it's mainly the factor of like being isolated from what is the main culture.
And video games are starting to become more mainstream.
Mainstream, yeah. So and I think that even though that there's a clear connection, clear evidence that video games are the cause of gun violence.
The evidence suggests, but that's all we can really say.
like, okay, I was listening to a different interview, NPR. They were saying, well, we shouldn't be even asking whether video games cause violence because aggression is a very complicated thing. It's a bunch of various factors. So you're not gonna. It's not just mental illness. It's not just they were impoverished, or it's not just this, but it's a combination of these things. So I think I think the arguments that we're having about video games causing violence is just wrong. We're just saying, hey, no, that's not true, and that's it.
Okay, my job here is done.
Yeah, just like screaming out in the ether, or like people will point out that other countries have these same violent video games, but not really because they have it censored over in like Japan or in like they've censored. Like, we're the ones with the most violent video games. I'd argue, Super Bunny Hop did a really good video about the ratings systems overseas in other systems.
Oh yes,
that was really cool. But
so yeah, so basically, spoiler warning. In this podcast, we're just gonna recommend other stuff for you to watch. So you can just watch that.
Well, because we're not experts, we can't.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's how this goes.
Yeah, because we're gonna like refer to, so like a lot of the studies that do say they don't even explicitly say it. They suggest that, like in the moments after playing something that's violent or watching something violent, then that there's heightened signs of aggression. So I think, but they said there was no lasting effects. So that's another thing.
I mean, yeah. Every time I play Call of Duty World War II, I finally finish a match. You do get a certain rush of emotions, but then it kind of dies down when I see the loot box. Oh, all right, yeah.
Yeah. I think that though, like also the argument that we're having is like, oh, like video games don't have any effects is like really bad, because like we also are saying, people also say things like, oh, like this thing changed my life, it's made me think about things a different way. And so I think we should still interrogate like the way that
like how exactly because the thing is, a video game is a piece of media, and media can really
shape how we see the world.
Yes,
actually,
exactly.
It's part of induction. Another this is like way before this argument even happened. There's also another good I think his name was Innuendo Studios or Pictures or something like that. He did a video on what's it called, induction theory or something like that.
Yeah, and I still have yet to watch it, but
well, what that says is basically that maybe it might not cause you to do something, but the media that you watch, and there's a strong correlation between like the media that you watch shapes how you see the world. So like playing violent video games might make you see the world as more violent than it actually is, or it might make you think, well, hey, maybe violence is the answer to your problems or something like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but of course, with everything, we can never say it's 100% a fact. So especially when you're when you are dealing with humans and emotions. Mm-hmm. This kind of gets muddled or muddy, whatever. I mixed up my metaphors.
So I'm trying to think of a game like I want to steer this into like portrayals of violence in video games, like how video games portray violence.
Exactly. That's actually what
okay.
I was going to do.
Okay.
But
so, I'm trying to think of like a game that says like explicitly like anti-violent themes, but I could only think of two. So
I think it depends on what on what game you're talking about, but that just goes to show that there is a lot of games that just have violence in them, even if
Mhm.
it's something mundane like Minecraft. You're
Yeah.
still, there's still a battle system.
Yeah. So,
Um,
or
and
even like games, like people say that, oh, this like Spec Ops: The Line really breaks down like violence in video games, and it's like, hey, why are you getting off on this, right? So, but like still the main mode of doing that is you aim and then you shoot. That's the the main
yeah,
mode of.
it's like while the story and narrative may be anti-war, there's still elements of violence. And
Why are we still like, why is still the main mode of mechanics for video games still like action? I mean, for all narrative, pretty much, that is the main mode of a conflict because it's easy, but like, think about like, I think that media itself needs to be more varied because how many times do you walk outside and you go on a little venture where you shoot a bunch of bad guys? I don't know, but like,
well, I mean, I don't go outside that much because I'm that guy. But
video
but
game.
when I do,
I take my
yeah,
Switch outside.
I just take my Switch outside and then I just don't do anything. But no, but yeah, I totally agree that we need more varied content, and even just with games, I think that's a huge issue because we tend to see kind of the same things repeated over and over. Which while those games may be good, and but seeing I don't know 5 Metroidvanias released at the same time and they're all good,
Mm.
it's just kind of one of those things that's like, oh, okay, it's another one. But that's a discussion for another day. Maybe I have no idea. Anyway, going back on topic, when I'm trying to think of games that have a lot of that have anti-violent themes, or even just the whole point is that you're not supposed to do anything. I also think of Undertale.
I was about to mention that. But still, you still have the option to, but they still try to make a point of it. It's just like, it's still indicative of like, hey, violence is still the main mode because you still have the option to kill every single, enemy. So
Yeah, even though the game highly encourages you not to do that,
yeah,
especially if you do that, then you will never get the true ending.
yeah,
Which, I mean, to me, I was like, oh, I didn't even know about that because, yeah, I could never force myself to actually do a genocide run because it looks just too tedious.
yeah, it does. But
It's like oh, no, I got shit to do. Sorry.
I'm good, fam. I'll just watch Markiplier play it or something. So that's,
Yeah. But I think there's a good argument here for saying it's that, well, if we are going to have a game that is all about nonviolence, then wouldn't having the player have a choice to be violent kind of help drive the point along? Because
having the choice, but also like forcing it down your throat, making it like the like not non-combativeness, make that the main mechanic.
So basically, what we need is a non-violent game that does it's a game about non-violence that doesn't, that if you take the violent path, it's not a combat, it's just like an option, and then you feel terrible for doing it.
Maybe, yeah.
Something like that, and then I think, oh wait, what about there's got to be some Telltale game that's like that, right? Nope. Oh well, rip me. Actually, I think every single Telltale game is pretty violent, even the Minecraft one.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. Like pretty much every single most narrative is revolved around combat, but like the everyday experience of everyone is not combat. I think we should vary up the types of stories we're telling. Tell something that's more personal, more intimate. not.
And then this just reminds me because I was looking at it today, or actually earlier today. But there's a game coming out. I think Ice did a little video on it. In Life.
Oh, was that not out yet?
It's in like I think it's an early release, so it is free. So
That's cool.
but the full game is actually going to be out March 30th. So, but probably by the time that this podcast is out, you can get it on Steam. And that is a very personal type of game that it doesn't really encourage you to fight things, but try to deal with how it's like to live on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's really cool. With also with not only representation of people on the spectrum, but having more varied stories being told. Probably like two games that I played recently. One is Florence, which is it's a romance game about this girl, Florence, and you can play it on your phone. It's like $2. I recommend it.
Is it for iOS or Android?
It's for both now.
Oh,
so,
awesome! Okay,
I mean,
then I have no excuse.
I do say that it's be warned. It's 40 minutes ish. So, like, if you're expecting like something that's 2 hours now, but it's really interesting. They do some interesting things with the phone, and I like it a lot. It's and it sticks with your mind a little bit. And then another game that I've been playing recently is where the water tastes like wine. You pretty much walk around America, listening to stories, talking to people, and seeing how those stories change into like folklore, epic scale stories. So it's pretty cool. So I mean, like, yeah, very up. Like if I ever make a game, it's not going to have violence in it. It's not going to have guns in it because I don't want to. Add to what, like, there's already a lot of games like that already out there. So why make that? Make
I
something
mean,
more unique.
we live in a world where we remade Doom, and it's fantastic.
It's good.
But still, we remade Doom.
Like remade the perfect game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm also starting to realize that most of the games that we're starting to talk about can be classified as walking simulators, even though I don't really like that term that much.
I mean,
I only use it because generally that's kind of what we're now classifying them as. But
yeah, but
yeah, it kind of seems like if you only want to have our perception of a game with theme of nonviolence, then you're gonna have it's gonna be a walking simulator. That just kind of seems like the default answer, which I don't think, which obviously is not the case for everything.
Not the case for everything, but we should maybe somebody might find like a more major mechanic that can be applied to nonviolent video games, maybe. And that could make it more mechanically satisfying for people who want mechanically satisfying systems. Like for me, like when I play like the games that have violence with them, I do like the mechanics. That's what I'm playing for. I think that the way they interact is interesting. The type of experience that they give. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that also just kind of comes down to the fact that we look more further and more deeply into games where the majority of people probably not even care.
Yeah.
But who cares about those people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially, you could there was a what was it? A game you could. Oops, my mic fell. Okay. There was a first-person shooter called First Person Lover that you could download and play. So, I mean, I guess you could...
Oh my god, I forgot about that game.
Flip the mechanics of stuff, like, instead of, like, in XCOM, instead of shooting aliens, you could be, like verbally arguing, giving them hugs.
People gifts.
And
it's Santa.
Gifts.
It's a Santa Claus game. You have to give people gifts.
So you could, like... you can take established, mechanics and just make a non-violent game out of them. So, I think it's promising to see, like, it's not going to come out of the mainstream video game
Oh
scene,
no,
unfortunately.
no
But
way.
I think that it's as more people of very diverse fields, more diverse games are going to come out. So I think that it's really promising to see what's going to happen in the future. And then when these mass shootings happen again, because we're not really addressing the problem, because I mean, we're gonna get a little political here, but we really do need gun control. So I think that's,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we're ignoring the issue. The actual issue is that people are able to like purchase firearms that are able to kill 17, 18 people in like a couple minutes. That's, you shouldn't be able to do that. So um,
Okay.
yeah.
And yeah, pretty much. And I guess we're gonna get a little bit more political here. And the last thing I do just want to cover is, of course, the fact that the White House released a video of sorts.
It looks like a kill.
I don't even want to call it a video because it looks like a crappy.
It's a 360 no scope montage.
Yeah,
You should have
it
like
looks like
dubstep, like.
Yeah, all it needs is dubstep, a rainbow filter, and then at the end some like cheap ass text, and then there you go. It's amateur YouTube intro. But
I wonder, and the weird thing, I've heard that people are saying that, you know, they stole footage from like certain like places on YouTube and they didn't accredit them, so that's great.
oh yes, they're clearly watermarks you can see, and I'm
yeah.
like, oh my god.
And also, but also, what was it? One of the main gaming organizations released a opposite video showing that, hey, games are peaceful, but the thing is, they showed like petting the giraffe in The Last of Us right before the scene, right before you like stab a clicker in the eye.
Oh, look at this cute! Look at this cute giraffe and the.
Or Zelda, where you're riding on a horse. It's like, guys, there are non-violent video games that don't have violence in them. You could show those games, okay? You could show like Gone Home, or you could show other games. Oh.
Gone Home, isn't that the game that you can beat in like 10 seconds?
They did that on purpose though, because, you know.
I know.
And Gum beat it in 10 seconds because he's a tryhard on his first try.
No, I did it. I almost did, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
I like Gone Home a lot, so.
I like it more now than I used to, because I used to be so upset. That's like, oh my god, you just beat this, and then and then I thought about it.
I understand your
like,
frustration,
but anyway, something of note that I do kind of want to spin off from the White House video is that the one thing that just angered me is the fact that they use the no Russian scene from Modern Warfare 2. And I'm like, okay, obviously this is one where I expected them to put something like that in, especially for Call of Duty, because that's like the easiest target you could do. But the context is super important when it comes to this stuff, and it's sort of the reason why, if I were just to show you, like even the Last of Us, let's say. If I showed you a clip of, because if you remember the guards in the beginning of The Last of Us, if you try to go past them too many times, they will shoot you. So if I just showed you that, where then it's like, oh my god, this game's so terrible, but because you don't have any context. So it's one of those things where context is extremely important when trying to decipher games.
Right. Like there's not any video games out there telling you, hey, you should go to that school and shoot people. The only one that I could think of is like Hatred, or
or even Postal, which I mean, those have their problems too.
Yeah, that's like
very much.
That's where some of that is from the racism episode, or.
Today, oh yeah. So today we're going to talk about hatred, I don't want to, but
I don't either.
my
It's a bad.
algorithm overlords suggest that I should. All right. Well, in any case, I would go into the whole whether or not like Polestar even deserves to be around anymore, or even the fact if Hatred even has any worth and or even should be.
Should we ban these
Yeah,
types of, I don't know. I feel
that
it makes me feel uncomfortable, but like, um, I could. I think we should. Okay, I think what we need is more media literacy. We need, instead of like sitting our kids in front of these video games and buying them Call of Duty or the latest Grand Theft Auto, we should actually talk to our kids and ask them, hey, what is this video game? What are you doing? Why do you like this video game? once we once we start having our kids be able to analyze what they're doing in these games and starting to understand like the mechanics and like what makes this game good, satisfying, maybe we could better get at why we play video games, and like we wouldn't have people like who like, because we can't say in a society where someone tried to shoot Ronald Reagan because of Taxi Driver, because he wanted to impress Jodie Foster. I mean, you can't say that media doesn't make people do stuff. I mean, like I guess for a mentally ill person it does, but like I mean, I think I don't know. Oh, that was
It's
that was
let's just say that it's a very complicated mess.
it's a very
And
complicated mess. Yeah, so
it just there's a lot to really think about, but I believe the key point here is media literacy is ridiculously important.
yes,
And I
yes.
think just as a society, and as a nation, especially in America, in wherever games are sold, we need more media literacy. I mean, there's so many. I mean, for me personally, the most mature game I played in my childhood would probably be Splinter Cell. Until I was at least more of a teen, and then I started getting into Metal Gear Solid. Uh, but at that point there's like so many but there's also like so many instances where, I mean, think of like the N64 where Conquer was released. I wouldn't expect most parents to look at that game and be like, oh, this is not for kids.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, so yeah, they need to be able to like know the content in the game is if it's appropriate for their kid. Because we're not saying like ban it for kids, but like your parent. I mean, like as a parent, you should know like what your child could take, what how they would be able to process it, right? So if they're
So
ready for seeing violent media, what it would. Because like some kids not aren't able to process it properly. They don't, because mainly maybe because their parents haven't talked to them about like violence in the world, or like, or sex or something like that. It's just like it's just I think it like all this starts at home, like how you raise your kid. I don't know. The world's complicated. It's not one thing or another. So
yeah, it's a lot of different factors, and the point is that we're really just focusing on one factor. Um, so I think the last thing was very brief until we switch up to talk about some news. Um, is how to be whether or not you think we should even continue this discussion about violence in video games.
I mean, like, okay, we should make it very clear that that it doesn't cause, well, nothing, no one factor. You're never gonna find a study that says X causes Y. I mean, because you could always say correlation does not mean causation and stuff like that. But like, it's very clear that it doesn't cause gun violence. But we could still have conversations about like the way that violence is portrayed in the media, and like how to best go about it and think about it and analyze it.
And I would agree with that as well. All right. So now to jump for some a little more lighthearted stuff, we got some Sonic news
Oh
that
boy,
broke out of
your mandatory Sonic reference.
yes. I kind of skipped. I kind of skipped out of it. The last podcast. It was very very brief, but
No, you
at
did.
least
You mentioned Sonic kissing that princess or something.
yes,
you did.
Yes, I did.
You mentioned.
So there's that. But today I get to talk about some new info that has released. First up is Sonic Mania Plus. This is a expansion. I guess that's the best way to talk about it, since that is going to not only have a physical version of the game, but it will also include 2 new playable characters, Mighty and Ray, which we haven't seen since an arcade game. And there's some interesting history behind, history behind that. But I have seen that a lot of people kind of look at this and say, "Oh, do I have to buy the game again?" No, you don't have to. In fact, I think it will be an upgrade DLC. So if you already have the game and you don't want to buy like the physical version or buy it again, then you can just upgrade for the DLC.
No,
And that's pretty much it.
If they made you pay something, I wouldn't. If I had it, because like Sonic Mania is only $20, right? So if they made you pay
Sonic
$5,
Mania is only $20,
So-
and it's $40 for the physical version. That also has a reversible Genesis cover,
that's great. Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my god, this thing looks amazing.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, like, if they made you pay like $5 for the new update or something, I wouldn't
I
complain.
think it's gonna be 10. I think it's gonna
Okay.
be 10.
Mm.
So, but still, we finally have Mighty and Ray, which are based off conceptual versions of Sonic. In case you didn't know, Mighty was introduced in Knuckles Chaotix, a game for the short-lived 32X.
Oh, rip.
But that poor thing.
Yeah. Let's just add a bunch of junk on top of your Genesis. That was a good
Yeah,
thing.
you know what also baffles me about that is that there were 32X CD games. I'm like how what?
Wait, what?
There's a Sega CD
There's a
version of like Night Trap, right? But there's
Yeah.
also a 32X CD version of Night Trap. They're 2 separate things. I'm like, what
Yeah.
what?
That's weird. That is very bizarre.
Because it's something about the 32X about also boosting the power of the Sega Genesis. So, and then also having the CD like also boosts the processing power or something. So like they can have games that take advantage of both, and that's where you get the 32X CD Genesis games.
Remember when I first got my Genesis, I was like, man, these graphics are so great. Man, time flies. Ugh.
But it's all about that aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's making a comeback. So.
Anyway, Sonic. Wow, totally got off track. So that's basically where Mighty has started, but Ray is even obscure because he didn't get introduced and then forgotten until a arcade game called I think it was Sonic Sega something. I forget the name, which is amazing. But I have not played it, and but it looks pretty cool. And if you look at the animation, it is very detailed. But you could obviously tell that it's just kind of based off one kind of sprite model, and then they just designed Mighty and Ray around it. Like, their animations are nearly identical. So it's very interesting. But Ray and Mighty are prominent in the comics, the R2 comics anyway. I haven't, now we have a new set of comics by IDW, which is interesting. I think I talked a little bit about that in a previous podcast, so I won't talk about that again. But yeah, Sonic Mania Plus is amazing. I will definitely I'll probably just get the DLC upgrade when that comes out. Oh, you bet I'm going to be streaming that. because that's all. It's amazing. Any excuse for me to replay that game is good enough for me. This might also be a good opportunity for me to get it on PC someday. Anyway, the last bit of Sonic news is that there was a new racing game teased. This is kind of an interesting thing especially with Sonic.
Is it confirmed that it's a racing game? Because
yes,
all they showed was the R.
Yes, it is confirmed. It is a racing game.
Okay.
But that's all that we know. But this kind of is interesting because Sonic has had a lot of racing games ever since he was kind of first introduced. We had Sonic Drift for the Game Gear. That we didn't get. We got the sequel that was still kept Sonic Drift 2. For some reason. but anyway, point being is that Sonic has had a long history with racing games, whether it be in a car or those rare ones where he actually is on foot, and there's some creepy doll in there somewhere, and then hoverboards. What? Okay. Anyway, I am really excited to kind of see what this will be, especially since I really enjoyed All Stars Racing and All Stars Racing Transformed. I'm not even joking. Those are really good racing games. They're basically like a better Mario Kart because the items don't really do much. So it really is just depending on if you can drift.
Well,
and there's like a lot.
That's some fighting words. You're like better Mario Kart. People are like, what?
It is because there's no annoying blue shell. And every single character gets their own unique like all-star move that they can only use if you're in dead last, and you're not gonna get first place if you have that. But I think that the Transform is a little better though, just because it changes up because it's not the same track that you're racing every single lap. The whole area changes. I remember in Transform there's a Skies of Arcadia one where the first lap is kind of normal, and then the second one, when you're in the second lap, things start falling, and then when you're in the third lap, and you're actually just flying for that. And I just thought, okay, see, it changes it up, and I'm like, where's Mario Kart's dynamic levels, huh? So better Mario Kart. I will fight you on that. That's.
You don't need to fight me. I'm fine.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't want to fight.
I like Crash Team Racing. That's a good kart racer.
You know what? I need to actually play that.
It's good.
Now that I actually can play that, if I manage to find a copy for cheap, and I'm like,
I will
probably
loan
not
you
gonna
my
happen.
copy. No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't. You'll never see it.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson of not loading people's stuff because oof. Yeah, I mean, bye my Sonic Genesis collection because and that's like that was expensive too. Like it's hard to get now, and I mean you can get it on PC now, but like the PS2
don't worry.
was...
Oh well, okay. Well, this is also the next bit of Sonic news. I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Is that this isn't really Sonic news, but the Xbox One and PS4 are going to be getting the Genesis, not Genesis, but like it's a Genesis collection that's contains a lot more games than the Ultimate one did.
Yeah.
Basically, Gunstar Heroes is in it, so that's like the only reason why I might be interested in getting it, because it wasn't in the other one for Xbox 360 and PS3, which baffles the hell out of me. It baffles the hell out of me why Gunstar Heroes wasn't in there, because that's like a ridiculously good Genesis game.
I've tried Gunstar Heroes and I can't get into it. It's too
it's free on your phone. It's actually a pretty good port, not gonna lie.
Yeah, they released like Streets of Rage and stuff like that. You could get it for free on phone with ads, but like it's a pretty good port. I'd pay what, five? How much is it for each?
I
Five?
think it was 5.
Five is a little bit much. I would pay
Yeah,
like two or
yeah,
three.
it's a little much, but
Yeah,
so yeah, just the ads aren't that bad. It's only I think an
when you
ad will pop
die,
up.
or
When
you could also get ads. You could watch ads for like extra lives or something like that, or something for some of them.
yeah, so there's still something there, and it's not like they interrupt you while you're in a when you're in a level.
Hmm.
So, thank God for that. But yeah, there's gonna be a new Genesis collection for the current new consoles, which is based off the Steam like collection thing that you can get. So, I mean,
The great thing about the Steam
okay,
collection is you could buy the ones individually. So like you know which one you want, you can just buy that one.
yeah. So yeah, there we go. Oh, and the last thing, just to mention it really quickly, is the Game Developers Conference happened, and it was really cool. I wish I had more time to kind of go into the specifics of what what is all happening, but I would highly recommend looking up some articles that have resurfaced, or not resurfaced, but have surfaced,
Hmm.
and from this, because there's some really just awesome things, and it really makes you wish that I was there. There's even something on Sonic, on the history of it, and recommend that.
I recommend the history of NBA Jam was apparently really interesting.
Oh yes,
Yeah, so I mean, like the actual videos aren't out there yet, but
yeah,
because the
the vid.
unfortunately, like you have to pay for their live feed, or you have to pay for like their more updated archive. So it'll take them like months or like even years for them to upload the actual video from this year. So
Yeah, which is a shame, but hey, who cares? Oh wait, we do.
yeah, unfortunately, but
Uh,
you do have that wealth of a backlog from the GDC talks that you could look at from previous years. So there's a lot of good information. I think that there needs to be a better way for cheap information that for upcoming developers and stuff. So, but that's a thing.
oh yeah, yeah. Which just yeah just the last thing to talk about for the GDC is that it's an amazing thing. I really wish I could be there every year, because there's just so many cool. It's just a cool
Yeah,
thing. All right,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
and
And all those devs are there, and then you could just like bump into like, oh hey, there's that dev.
like, hey,
That dev.
you.
That's totally would be me because like my mind blanks sometimes.
Right. That's how human interaction works. Just bump into them, and they're like, "Hey, you," and then you're friends.
Physically bump into everybody.
Yes. At least that's what I'm told. All right. So anyway, let's go on to our last topic for tonight. I guess that would be video game criticism. Now, this actually brought up because I was seeing a lot of discussion about um, film criticism, and I kind of thought, hey, wait a minute, we should probably discuss about how games are
Criticize.
critiqued, or should I say, the lack of game criticism, and how most of it just seems to be angry, or
Hmm.
uh, not angry
Or
people.
when you ask a lot of people today who their favorite game critics are, they're gonna mention someone on YouTube, which is kind of sad because like there's a wealth of good game critics that that do writing, that do other forms of critique, and because like criticism is like it's not specific to one form of criticism. So I think that when you over rely on one system, then I think. Okay, so we're directly referring to a Patrick H. Williams video that he did about film criticism, and pretty much everything he says in that video can also be applied to video game criticism.
Yep.
The biggest most game critics, both on the writing side and on the video side, are white males. But it's getting more diverse. I think that, and the reason why you would want more diverse criticism is because people come from different backgrounds. They see things in a different way. So a trans person writing about Persona 5 might, or Catherine might see the portrayal of certain people not as good, and they might point that out, and you might start thinking, well, hey, maybe you might start thinking more critically about the media that you're consuming. So,
I think there is a transgender person in Catherine. I forgot her name.
They're adding Rin, and in the trailer, the problem is that she shows her lower half of her body, and then what's the main character's name? I forget. Whatever his name is.
Vincent.
Vincent. He's like, oh, and so it's very much implied that that she's trans, and so
no! Like I wasn't even talking about a new character. There was a side character who had red hair, and I forget her name because I haven't played the game. But yeah, it's implied that
Japan hasn't done too well with trans representation, but that's not within my own wheelhouse to criticize. So. I'll just point you to articles from actual trans people who have actually criticized them. So,
it's also not my place to really look at that too much. Also, because we don't really have the time. But anyway, going back to just talking about criticism. What to you when you think of, let's say, good criticism versus bad? What are some examples of either? Do you think?
I think criticism is supposed to make you see media, see the media that you're consuming in a different light. It doesn't have to be specifically. A lot of people say a line I see a lot online is, "Wow, nice to see some honest criticism," and it's critique is not specifically majority negative or majority positive. Critique is critique. So it's just what this person thinks about this piece. There's this prevailing attitude on the internet that when you rip a video game in half, or you rip a movie in half, oh, this is every reason why you should hate this movie, why this movie sucks. There's your movie sucks, but this idea that critique is supposed to be negative is not a good idea, right? So I think that critique is supposed to make you see point out things about what makes a movie cool or what makes it bad, but probably point out the themes. I think that's what criticism is about. I think that's and that's what really got me into thinking about movies is or criticism in general actually is watching Roger Ebert at the movies. That he had a show where he criticized movies and he talked about why they were cool or why they were bad, and I thought
I think they remember his Beauty and the Beast one. Mm-hmm. That's one of the first ones that I saw,
and that's I think I really wonder about this current generation, because I was flipping, as a kid, I was flipping two channels and I found that show and I started watching it, and that's what made me start thinking about film and what makes a movie good, and if you're just watching these YouTubers that play video games and they're not really commenting on what they're playing, or all their reactions are just whoa or something like that. It's just okay, because media
so basically, if you're watching me and my old stuff, you probably shouldn't. But the point here is also to say that you can enjoy your media however you want it, in a sense. And we're not saying that you're not saying that all those Let's Players on YouTube are terrible.
No, they're not terrible.
we're just trying. We're basically just saying that when it comes to criticism, there's a fine line. I think.
There is, um, there's the fine line between constructive criticism and like not helpful criticism, and I don't know how to give examples because right now,
It's
but
yeah, and but that's really sad that we can't easily come up with examples when you think about it. It's like wow. But the reason why I wanted to, of course, talk about this is because this comes into the theme of media literacy,
yeah.
and I think one way that we can become more literate is by looking at games or film or really any medium more critically.
Yeah.
And to do that, we need good video game criticism.
Yes, definitely. And I do think that the average, like anybody could be a critic. So let's make that clear. Anybody could be a critic, and it doesn't. You don't have to have, like some people say that you have to have a good knowledge of the basis of that that genre or that type of media, but I don't think so. I think that like someone who's new to first person shooters who does a critique of Call of Duty, I think their perspective is important still to listen to, because that is the perspective of a person who's new to first person shooters. I think that's still interesting to listen to. So,
yes,
but as long as that context is clear, right? So, but yeah, it's just really complicated. I think that a lot of people are trying to put up walls around criticism and try to like gate it off from certain people. I think we should open it up. Have more conversations about the media we enjoy instead of, and a lot of the conversations that I have had about movies is just like, oh, hey, that movie is good. Yeah, and sometimes I kind of want to like have a more deep conversation. It's like, hey, why do you like that movie or something? Whenever I do that, sometimes it's very rarely is like that person is like taken aback. It's like, oh wait, well, I never really thought about that, but as soon as
this reminds me when I went to see the new Blade Runner. I was pretty late to it, but I finally when I did get to see it. Full disclosure, I actually really like it. It's like one of my favorite. It's like one of my favorites that came out last year. But I remember I remember getting to a conversation about it with someone else that didn't like the film, but they never said why, and it really bothered me. That it's like no. See, listen, it's okay that we have differing opinions, but if
I
you
just want to know
how you
really
see it. No,
yeah.
We don't know why. And
what made you not like it?
And in that sense, this is why kind of having more. This is why criticism can, in its basest sense, be boiled down to an educated opinion. In its basest sense, it can be boiled down to just that, and everyone can have an opinion. At least I hope so. How else, oof, that would have a lot of problems. But anyone can be a critic. It's just that make sure that if you are giving some critique, to try and just explain why. Don't leave it at this was good or this is bad or this is a 5 out of 5, whatever. Try to explain why, because that helps especially.
And try to, like, I don't know, because like a lot of people have different voices and they approach it different ways. The majority of game criticism right now is mainly on the front of, hey, do these mechanics feel good, right? And,
that seems to be the biggest sense. Like, if all these mechanics work, then it's a good game.
The reason why I've like drifted towards like listening to Waypoint is because they're the only ones that are looking at for more of a socially conscious aspects from, and so think more about the representation or the politics of the game, or like how the ethics of how this game was made, right? So the only
I mean, like, hey, you look at Deus Ex Mankind Divided. This is a perfect game. All the mechanics work so well. Yeah, just not pay attention to Breach, but everything else, it's fantastic.
But the ways that game was made was not very good. So like, yeah, so you just gotta.
But this also proves that there's multiple angles you can tackle with.
Yes. So there's
And
multiple angles, and I think that people should like try to vary it up more instead of like just talking about the mechanics. Talk about some of the stuff in the and some people take the approach of like, well, if it plays well, it doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the dev was a racist on Twitter, or it doesn't matter that that these workers had to crunch really hard and didn't get to see their family for months, or something like that, or something crazy, or they didn't get paid. So sometimes it's not uncommon in the game industry for developers to not get paid. Recently, with Life is Strange Before the Storm, they used non-union actors, which was like, hey, that's a really shady move. During the strike, the actor strike. So that was not a good move. And the game suffered for that, from what I've heard. I mean,
yes, the voice acting is significantly worse.
Yeah,
it is like but what also sucks is that I think that some of the mechanics in the overall story is a little better. I definitely feel like
I haven't played it, but
I definitely feel like the relationship is better. I've only watched things of it, but I can tell that just the story and the relationship is much better than how it was in Life is Strange.
The only criticism, the only person I've heard talk about it is Hamish Black from Writing on Games, and he hates that game. He named it like his worst game of 2017. So.
I mean, but this is the point. It's like, well, good, because
and then he points out why he hates that game. He talks about it for like an hour on his podcast. That is like, okay, yeah, so I see why you hate it. And then people who like it, I can listen to them, and I can be like, hey, I see why you like it. So and that's what media is about. You just like see why people like things, see why people don't like things. It's cool, I think.
Yeah, and with that, we can finally lay the argument that Dark Souls 2 is not that bad of a game.
Yeah,
that
is true.
Even though I did rage quit at it, but it's still not that bad. Anyway, with that said, folks, that is going to be the end of the podcast. Try and keep it on a little bit more the shorter side. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this issue. Weird. Yeah. Okay. No. I hope that you. Yeah. I hope that you enjoyed this. And Sponge, where can they find you?
You could find me on Twitter at the SpongeBrain. Or you can find me on YouTube. I haven't posted a video in a while, but I'm working on it. It's SpongeBrain. Yeah, so SpongeBrain pretty much everywhere. So yeah, that's that.
Is there any video that you recommend for like first time?
People? A lot of people seem to like the Resident Evil retrospective, so you can watch. That's like an hour or two that you can just watch me talk about Resident Evil. So watch that. I like those. Deus Ex is always going to have a space in my heart, but I watched that again. I'm like, that doesn't hold up as well. But and so yeah.
Well, how about them Call of Duty retros?
Those are okay. Those are okay. Those are good. I still say those are good, but I don't like them as much because they're Call of Duty.
Well, duh.
But yeah.
Oh man! I can't wait for your video on Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
Oh god,
that's a thing, and the logo is so dumb.
A lot of people criticize the logo. Like a lot of people don't realize that those could be tally marks. So
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're. I think that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be tally marks. But I'm also just
every single podcast that I've listened to, they were like, "Oh, do these guys not know Roman numerals?" It's just like, okay, that's.
But it's just odd to me. It doesn't really mesh well. It doesn't mesh well with the others.
No.
It's just I'm also very concerned because I'm like I didn't really like like 3 all that much.
No, because
s-
also a really good video to watch about Call of Duty. Oh, a better Call of Duty retrospective is Nowhere to Races, so you can watch that.
oh yeah, he did a update on the last 3, which I think are really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still have yet to beat the Call of Duty World War II, though I kind of stopped the single player because I started to realize there really isn't any meat to this.
That's sad.
And yeah, it's why I think that so far the best modern like Call of Duty story has got to be
Infinite Warfare, the one that people hate.
Yeah, Infinite Warfare, that which everyone hates. So whip me.
Infinite Warfare is not that bad, guys. I like it. I'll actually go out on a limb and actually say, hey, I like that game. I actually.
I also liked the story to Advanced Warfare. Apparently that's a terrible game. I didn't know.
Yeah, Advanced Warfare is good too.
Press F to pay respects. Am I right?
That wasn't. It wasn't. It's just the problem with that scene is that they put up the text. All they had to do was just take off the text, and that would have been an okay moment. Just put like. Yeah, I mean, you still needed that button press, I feel like, to make that connection. Because there's a similar moment in Infinite Warfare, but they don't put up the button press. They put they put like a little X over the spot you're supposed to press, and you just press X. It doesn't tell you to press X. It's just the wording.
It's just that. Anyway, wow, we got off on a tangent there.
Tangent.
Anyway, folks, thank you all for watching. If you're new to the podcast, I appreciate any and all feedback. I did get I almost forgot to say that if you would like to say a question for the next podcast, make sure to you can tweet at me. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment on below, or you can join my Discord, in which I have a separate chat just for that stuff. I did get one question. Might as well do this.
Okay, sure.
It's have you? Okay, this is gonna be really easy. Have you seen Ruby Chibi? I have not, so I don't have any opinions on it. And there you go, folks. That's the end.
That's pretty much.
So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching again, and we'll see you, or at least I will, on the next podcast.
Bye.